Welcome back to the official GeekSpeak podcast. I'm your host, Sean Williams, and joining as always is my co-host, Josh Admiral Exhaustion Rudy Rudolph. This is the podcast where we watch movies, make movies, play games, and more. What else can you ask for? And this week, we are joined by a special guest, our friend Nikhil Clayton. He has amassed over 800,000 followers on TikTok for his love of movies, comics, and a variety of comedy sketches. He joined us last time on episode 14 a while ago, doing a deep dive on the X-Men movies as a whole. Welcome back to the show, Nikhil.
Hi. Happy to be here.
We are glad that you are here again. Last time we talked for a long time about the Fox movies and the variety of quality we got. And it's always fascinating me seeing how something like that adapts these characters versus something like the show we're talking about today adapts these characters. Different ways of doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. If you're new to the show, welcome. Most episodes we go through a different Disney Channel original movie, or DCOM for short, and we see how in a short period of time, roughly, we'll see how Disney caters towards solely children with a large sample size. We'll see quality changes, etc. And next episode, we'll be back with that because we have a guest today, and we do not make our guests watch these DCOMs because the quality is always shocking in various ways. We have no idea what you're going to get.
You're still doing the DCOM thing? What are you up to these days?
We're only a few years into the actual years because there's we got to a point where now at the first few years it's 3 in a year. Now it's 12 in a year. Not like our show, but how many they made. And then we fell behind for a while because also we paused the show during the strikes as well.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Because we were trying to be extra careful of everything to think, let's be safe. And we just did the episode Jumping Ship, which was a sequel to Horse Sense.
What year are you in?
2001.
Early 2000s.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's meant to be a long game.
That's how many are there? I thought there was 50 tops.
Back when they started, they were doing basically a movie a month. Once you get to the 2010s, it kind of really dropped that number down.
Oh, there's 110.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So it is doable.
That's a lot though.
But it's a manageable number where we could catch up in theory.
You guys, this is a weekly podcast or a monthly podcast?
It's whatever we get to at this point. In theory, is weekly to 2 weeks usually is what we can get to. But with him working full time, me working full time, and the time zone difference now, that's just when we get to it.
Yeah.
But after that DCOMs, we usually go to our news and then our main topic, and followed by a thing called Super Weird Stories, which if you follow Nikhil's channel, it's kind of like his What the Fuck comics. But
yeah,
we do also things.
Sean asked me to not bring such a long one this time. I picked up on that.
It was good. It was just
great.
A lot to edit.
That was more for Josh's sanity. That's all it was.
Fair enough.
But today, the news of the week has been interesting. Let's talk first about some movie releases that came out. We got Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, Garfield, and If has come out. Have you all seen any of those movies yet?
I'm seeing Furiosa tonight.
I've seen all three.
Josh, what are your thoughts on those 3 movies so far?
Oh boy. So Furious is the easiest one for me to talk about. That one is very, very good. It's very different from Fury Road, and I really appreciate it for that. And it's much more of an emphasis on narrative and world building than Fury Road was.
Okay.
There's still a lot of good action, but it's very different. But I really enjoyed it. Garfield, I like it. It's good. I don't know if I just had bad taste, but I found it really funny. You get used to Chris Pratt as Garfield. He would not be my first choice, but I mean, he's fine. It's a lot of fun though. If is one I am very conflicted on because I could see the effort Krasinski put into it. He got fucking Steven Spielberg's cinematographer to shoot this movie, so it looks incredible. And there's a lot of really fun ideas there, but there's some things I think that he needed someone else to come in and help him write it because there's some good ideas, but not everything is fully built on the way that it should. I did enjoy it though, and I probably would see it again.
And you're seeing Furiosa tonight as well, Nikhil?
I'm seeing Furiosa tonight. I have no plans to watch the other 2.
That's fair enough. I have seen not a single Mad Max movie at this point.
That's weird. I've seen the first one, Thunderdome, and Fury Road. Though I will say I did not care super much for Fury Road.
Josh loved it.
I know I'm in the minority. I watched it at 1 a.m., which seems wrong on my little TV instead of in a theater. So I feel part of it's my fault, but I'm not a big action has to be a lot to keep me engaged, especially at 1 a.m. And
That's funny because I watched Godzilla King of Monsters in my phone on an airport.
yeah, but Godzilla King of
So-
Monsters is stupid, and so that
True,
that's
but
like
I'm saying if you're
Max.
going for scale
Mad
though,
Max, you're like, it's slow. It's a lot of just stuff happening. I don't know. I didn't hate it. I think I gave it like 3 stars or something, but I don't think it's like the one of the best films of the recent years, like a lot of people do. But again, it might be the way I watched it. I can admit that. I'm excited for Furiosa because I've heard the sentiment that it has more emphasis on narrative and world building, which is what I wanted out of Fury Road. So we will see.
cool. I plan on doing this week a Mad Max just binge from number 1 to Furiosa.
I will
Um,
never watch whatever the second Mad Max is because I enjoy.
The Road Warrior.
Is that what it's called? Okay. Because
Yeah.
I enjoy the enigma of it existing. Because I've seen the first Mad Max and I've seen Thunderdome, which is already post-apocalyptic, and I enjoy that there's a missing piece in there that I'll never know.
See, my coworker says it's his favorite movie of all time is number 2.
No, I hear it's great. I like that. I don't know what the hell happened in it.
I mean, I've seen the first one and I started the second one, and like the first one's like more of a dystopian movie. There's no post-apocalypse that's happened. Then the second movie happens, it's like, yeah, the world kind of blew up. We're
It's
just gonna go with
already
it.
post-apocalyptic in the second one? I thought the first 2 were normal. Oh.
No, second one.
Well, then maybe I will
Yeah,
watch
second
it.
one is just like
We also got the first 2 episodes come out now of My Adventures with Superman season 2. I love the first season so much, so I'm super excited to watch this. I'll probably watch them both tonight. Have you seen the first season, Nikhil, at
I
all
have
yet?
not.
If you get a chance, just check out the first 2 episodes. If you like the vibe, you'll probably like the show.
I'm sure I'd like. For TV, I rewatch and binge shows that have ended, and then
I do that a lot
I
too.
forget to watch the shows that are out now. My friends will be like, "Have you seen this?" And I'll be like, "I'll watch it when it ends." I watched both Secession and Barry at the same time, but like 3 months after they had both ended together.
Like I watched X-Men '97 entirely last night.
That's absurd. That's a crazy thing to do, especially because we
but sorry,
planned to do
besides-
this like 2 weeks ago.
No, my plan was always I was gonna binge it when it was done in the first place. I saw episodes 1 and 2 before, but the rest of it I watched last night, and I finished the finale actually 2 hours ago.
How was it binged? I feel like it would hold better serialized, or yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think
It's definitely made
it's-
for a Saturday morning cartoon vibe. Like you're supposed to watch it
it's
weekly.
more serious than
Yeah,
that.
but like the medium they're playing with is that.
Yes.
I think watching it weekly.
That
helps
was
a
my
lot.
biggest critique. Actually, was some of this other stuff like feels like there's missing things between things, like time had passed.
Yeah, well, because it's relying
Between
on that
episodes.
old sense of like time has
Right.
passed because a week has happened.
And so that was my biggest problem with the show, but that's also not on me for watching it like that. So it's give and take. Like, that would be interesting to watch it as a different way than both of you did. That was my intention.
you should have watched it when it was coming out, because seeing episode 5, then having to wait a week
We'll
for
get
the
to
next
that.
episode was. Whew.
So I'm excited to watch My Adventures with Superman. And I know you said you don't watch a lot of TV, but if you get a chance, just give it 1 episode, see if you like
I'll watch it one day, whenever it ends.
it. Whatever. A few years from now.
Yeah.
So we also have a bunch of trailers that came out this past week or so. We met the last episode we recorded was the day the Wicked trailer came out, and this was cool.
Are you guys Wicked
Sure.
fans or no?
I've seen the show on Broadway. I liked it a lot. If they're still doing 2-part for this, I'm not.
I
a fan
don't
of it.
understand that because
No, because Act 2
makes
is
no
worse.
sense.
I didn't understand it in concept, and then now that I finally seen the trailer, because I watched all these trailers 10 minutes before I got on here. Now that I finally seen the trailer, I don't get it even more because the trailer seems to cover the whole plot. Like my biggest issue with the
Yeah.
trailer was it just was the entire plot of the movie, and then I was like, but they're also not even doing the whole movie, so I don't know
Right.
why they're.
So
presenting
my
that.
thought with that is I think they're probably just condensing it down in one movie and just scratching the whole part 2 thing. That's my assumption here.
That seems like what it would be, unless they're gonna go bonkers insane and part 1 is Wicked and then part 2 is a remake of Wizard of Oz. I doubt they're gonna go that insane, but what if they
But the
did?
thing is, like, even Dorothy is like in this movie. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know where they're
only
cutting
in
the
part 2.
film because it all
No.
seems to be in this movie. Because what I would assume they would do was they would have the school section be the whole first film, and it would be her and
Yeah.
Glinda hating each other, and at the end they'd like get like nicey nice, and then they'd go off to the city, and that would be where you end it. And then the trailer got to that point, and it kept going. And I was like, well, I don't understand what we're doing anymore.
So what you're saying is you also would save Defying Gravity for part 2.
I think you have to. It's the climax of the thing. Like, I understand you can't probably make a Wicked movie and be like, Defying Gravity's not in it. But, like, what's the next one then? Like, how do you... I just don't get it. Why we're doing the whole film.
Casual fan who knows that song.
I don't know how we're doing the whole film in one film, and then there's a second film after. I don't know what that could be.
If they are still doing 2 parts, it could be what they did with Deathly Hallows, where they put footage from both movies into the trailer for like that initial announcement. But also in that trailer, they announced that it was 2 parts though. So like, I don't think it's 2 parts anymore. If it is, I'll be genuinely surprised.
They're not gonna just redact, like, because they would have made this movie before the marketing came out that said it was a part 1. Like, I don't think they would just suddenly have the second half of a movie in there.
They realized the editing. We gotta cut this out, y'all. This is not as good. Make it 1.
But
yeah, I don't know.
My fear is that it's gonna be like a Hobbit thing, and that somehow, especially with the trailer ending being like, "Oh, I gotta go take on the wizard." I loved this play as a kid. I don't remember it super well these days, but I like the music. But I don't remember a big battle. But at the end, she's like hyping up some fight with the wizard, and I'm like, is the second movie going to be some big, like, Oz war film?
It's you and me, Tom.
That's insane. It's insane to make Wicked one movie and then be like, but it's a part 2 because we're tacking on the battle for Oz at the end of it.
The battle of 5 armies, but 5 munchkins.
But again, it was also insane to make a Battle of 5 Armies movie when the main character is not conscious. So, you know?
Right. That part of the book he's asleep for.
Which also was like the point. Now we're off topic, but the point.
Yeah, no, that's true though. That's my biggest pet peeve. That I didn't watch the third Hobbit movie because I love the book so much. And I got pissed off.
I watched it to see if they would knock him out, and they didn't. So I was
wait. It took like an hour and 45 to knock him out, but they did.
Yeah, but like he's supposed to be knocked out the whole time. He was like fighting. He was like there. Ridiculous. The whole point is that the battle didn't matter, and then they were like, "No, the battle mattered the entire super thing. Much."
Anyway, Wicked, yay or nay on this trailer?
I'm yay. I'm just confused about the second one. But
yeah, that's kind of where I am too.
It gave me everything I would have liked out of the Wicked trailer. I was just like, oh, I expected to be disappointed that some of this wasn't in here.
And I like the casting overall.
Yeah, I like Michelle. Yeah. Is it Michelle Yeoh? Is the teacher lady?
Yes,
I like her.
I don't know who's Dr. Dillerman, the goat. Who's playing?
It's a goat. I should have I shat on people online when they were like, "Why is the Cowardly Lion a lion?" And I was like, "Because he's not always just a guy in a suit." But then when I saw the real goat, I had the same reaction. So I feel like
I think the goat should have been a goat man still in my head, but that was weird.
I guess he would be it. But isn't like the whole point that I guess it's talking versus not talking. It's not anthropomorphic
it's talking
versus
animals.
not anthropomorphic.
Correct.
But
they could have changed that.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be horrifying to see a man goat devolve into a real goat. Like that would be very scary. So
and kids will see
that part
this.
of the play always freaked me out. Was that when he like that song where he can't like stop doing goat noises and he's just turning into a goat and he's like, something's wrong, and I'm like, yeah, something is wrong. You're becoming a goat.
So Megalopolis trailer.
Megalopolis sold me. I have been very sus of this movie. I think it looks awesome. I don't think there's a plot. I think there is no reasonable way to connect those images in a narrative. If he does, it'll be one of the best movies of all time. That's a huge undertaking. I don't think
I know it's like premiered at like Cannes, I think, and everyone's had like mixed reactions to it. Like,
well, because I think it's probably the most indulgent film of all time, and everyone's going to react to indulgence like that in one of two ways: either extreme like hate or love, and it depends how much on the wavelength you are. But it looked really pretty, so I'm kind of. I
like the visuals.
I'm not a big Coppola guy. I like the films that he made that were good, that everyone says are good, and then he has other movies.
I don't know if I've seen anything by him actually yet.
You've not seen Godfather?
No, I've not seen The Godfather. Any of them?
Apocalypse Now?
I know. I've seen 1,300 plus movies at this point. Not Godfather.
The Godfather is genuinely good.
I've seen the DCOM jumping ship, but not The Godfather.
What'd you say, Josh?
Uh,
I said I think I considered the first Godfather better than Part 2, which is controversial, I know, but I think this narrative of that one is better than Part 2 is.
I like Part 2 more. I think just the best part of the whole thing to me is the Vito Corleone story in Part 2.
Oh yeah,
So I put Part 2 above just for that.
so are we all kind of just yay on this trailer? Then looks pretty
Yeah,
good.
I mean, it looks great. It's just there was so much shit. There was like random. There was like sometimes Blade Runner-y looking stuff going on. There were the statues falling apart. There were satellites in space. Either someone got a fully coherent movie in the editing bay and then was like, I'm gonna make this look like the most chaotic thing possible, or they got the most chaotic thing possible and we're like, we're just gonna put the prettiest visuals. And I don't know which one I prefer, to be honest. We'll see.
I'm moving on to Beetlejuice, and I'm a nay on this one. It looked, the very first teaser, I was vaguely interested. I like the first movie because the first movie is no plot, just vibes, and this one is
the first
feels
movie's no plot. The first movie's plot.
it's very little plot.
It's
mostly
entirely
in the vibes.
plot. What do you mean?
What do you mean?
It's ghosts trying to get humans out of their house. That's
Yeah,
entirely
but the
plot.
entire thing is style over substance.
I
To
disagree
me.
with this take.
Fine. My point was going to be that this one for me feels more narrative than.
Oh,
than the original
I
movie.
could not disagree with everything you say more.
Oh, awesome! Go on, keep talking.
No, Josh, you do it because you've been trying.
I was gonna say it's funny that you're nay on this one, Sean, because the first one I was nay on, but now this one is like making me go like, okay, maybe we've got something here because
Okay.
I love the vibes of it, how old school it feels. Literally, like the bad stop motion for like the sandworms, not great green screening, that plane shot like being bad CG, like, and it's not like it's not purposeful. It's very purposeful, and I really dig that he's sticking as close to the original as possible. Also, the practical effects, the makeup and stuff. I'm like, maybe there's something here. Maybe I'm going with a grain of salt though on the maybe.
Yeah.
I will say this: my first takeaway for this trailer, as well as my first takeaway when the name was announced, is that the name of this movie feels like a threat to me, because it's very much like there's nothing that's Beetlejuice, you know. So like they're going for a third
Right.
film,
A third of one.
regardless of what happens. They're already setting up that they're going to make the third movie. So I just that scares me. But also, I don't know. I'm nay on this trailer for sure. I just think because I like the first Beetlejuice a lot, and
Me
I
too.
think this one showed style over substance, and it's for what
Okay.
Josh was saying of like they're really leaning into like it's purposefully bad, but I think that just makes it look bad. Like those were good effects for Beetlejuice. They weren't being campy. Like they were trying in the first one, and then now try again. Like make your snake look a little good.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be Dune, but like it shouldn't look like a Disney
Arrakis.
Channel original movie. And I don't know. Jenna Ortega's there. Winona Ryder's there. I was unable to tell what the plot of this movie was. Besides, what it seems like Jenna Ortega literally just says Beetlejuice 3 times, and then Beetlejuice is around.
Right.
And that's just the whole
yeah.
issue. It's like last
This
time
is the second
they
trailer.
summoned Beetlejuice for a reason. In the first one,
Right.
they needed a bioexorcist. In this one, she's just like, don't say that. And she's like, Beetlejuice, 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 and Beetlejuice shows up. And like, I hope that's not
Right.
the inciting incident of this film. Is she's just
I
like,
agree.
oh, let me say it anyway.
I found a flyer. Let's say these words.
Oh.
That was weird.
But
But
Michael Keaton's back. I like Michael Keaton going back to comedic roles. He's really not done any in a long time, I feel like.
no.
But
No,
yeah, we'll see. I like the first one. I'm weird about like Tim Burton refused to do a second Beetlejuice for so long. And is it Tim Burton? Is he back for it? Okay.
Yeah.
That's weird to me. Like, how do you go decades of like, I will never make this movie, and then you're like, Beetlejuice.
I think when he made Dumbo, I think that broke him, and he's like, I gotta go back to what I used to do. This is not what I should be doing.
I don't know. We'll see. Also, he also made Wednesday, so I guess that explains the Jenna Ortega thing. But I find it very funny that Jenna Ortega is just like the new Winona Ryder in general. They're just like, all right,
Mhm.
we have a new one.
We have it. Reborn. Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Oh, I
movie.
hated that.
I hated it too.
That actually was the only trailer I'd seen prior, and I did dislike it immensely. There's so many confusing things. First of all, of all of the
Why is it Zachary Levi?
of all of the characters to do like the Smurf style reverse isekai trope, why Harold? What about Harold implied it wasn't taking place in the real world? Like I don't get that at all. Like the Smurfs, sure, they live in Smurf Town. Bring them to New York. Harold could just be from New York. Like I don't understand that. Also, he's got a moose and a porcupine, and then the entire trailer is with the moose guy. The fuck happened to the porcupine? I'm so serious. I feel like she's the villain of the movie. I think that's the only reasonable take.
Is there a villain?
Did you watch the trailer? There's like an evil sorcerer.
Jermaine Clement.
Oh yeah.
That's the other
watched her
thing.
days ago.
Why is there an evil sorcerer in the Harold and the Purple Crayon? I don't understand. It looks like they wanted to make Smurfs. They were trying to do Smurfs, and then they just didn't have Smurfs, I guess, so they threw in a new thing. I'm so confused.
Why does Zachary Levi keep playing children?
He needs a new agent desperately.
He's just horribly typecast.
He got Shazam because he did Chuck.
Okay,
And
no, hold on. Harold is not a child, though. Like, canonically in the trailer, it shows that he has aged up, so he's just an adult.
It's weird.
My thing is, when I heard they were making a Harold in the Purple Crayon movie, starring an adult man, I assumed what it was going to be a movie about Harold who has aged and is now just a normal guy, but has a magic crayon.
Hook style.
Yeah, exactly. Hook style. And then they didn't do that at all.
No.
It is to your point, Shock, because they want him to still be childlike, and that's bonkers.
Right.
Why? Also, like, the crayon is made out of pure imagination. Go fuck yourself, evil sorcerer. I can't not.
So you both are giving this nay.
Yes, that was
Hard
so
nay.
bad.
This is very much a film that was written in the 90s that they seem to have shot in the 2000s and are only now releasing it because they're just like, we've got nothing else. We got to move Craven the Hunter to December. Might as well put this out.
First of all, they didn't release Craven. Guys, it's not going to get any better. I don't know what they keep waiting for. It's not going to get... Like, keep pushing it. It was supposed to come out in January. And I think that was
the next
delayed.
Morbius!
And it's just like, it's done. Put it out. Like, what are we... They're hoping for a sweet spot where I guess literally nothing else comes out that week at all. And so they're just... Because every time they move it, they're like, to avoid competition with blah, blah, blah. Everything comes out every week. You got to just pick a week and go with it. And just accept it.
December has Sonic 3 and Mufasa. And they're just like, yes, this is the prime time to put out our R-rated Craven the Hunter movie.
It is, because they said that they were moving it from the other slot because it had too many R-rated movies competing with it. So they're like, oh, maybe if there's children films, we can win.
So back to Harold for a second. Why is Zoe Deschanel in this?
Because she hasn't done anything in a while, and she needs a paycheck.
Zoe Deschanel made the most sense for Harold the Purple Crayon movie.
Yes,
that did not confuse me.
But this pairing feels like an SNL sketch.
The whole thing feels like it just feels like it's a joke from 30 Rock, like a fake trailer you would see in the show, except they made it real.
Actually, Harold and the Purple Crayon is exactly the kind of movie that they would say they were making in 30 Rock. That is definitely something they would do.
Blue jumper and all. Yeah, nay. I just wanted to hear your general thoughts on it because this is an odd movie. I want to see your reactions to.
I want to understand why when they go to the real world, the moose and porcupine turn into real people. What's the reasoning behind that?
Because they wanted to make Smurfs. So serious. They made Smurfs 2, and they must have greenlit a Smurfs 3. Maybe there was a Smurfs 3, I don't know. But then it got shelved and eventually repackaged as Harold and the Purple Crayon.
They tried to get Neil Patrick Harris back for this one, but he threatened to shoot the executive that told him he needed to come back.
Genuinely, if this film had come out 10 years ago, it would be Neil Patrick Harris.
I know you don't watch much TV right now, Nikhil, but do you like the Emmys at all? Or any award? Do you like the Oscars?
I love the Oscars. Watch the Oscars religiously every year. The Emmys, I find out who won via the internet, but I find it interesting.
Same. So we have two... Now, Hot Ones and Chicken Shop Date have now been successfully allowed to compete in Emmys for the first time.
Oh, good. Good for Hot Ones. I don't know the other one.
Hot Ones deserves that.
Yeah.
For sure. I haven't ever watched Chicken Shop Date. I've seen clips of it here and there, but I've liked Hot Ones for a long time.
Yeah.
And he has actually interesting questions he asks as well.
Hot Ones is genuinely a really good time and a really good interview. I assume are they competing in late night or?
Double check that. I would assume so.
That's kind of it'd be hilarious if they won. Just
Also, Good Mythical Morning.
oh,
Good for them.
I'm surprised they hadn't been in before, to be honest. Because
Short form ballads.
even like Epic Rap Battles of History, I'm pretty sure it's been Emmy nominated. So I don't know why Good Mythical Morning would have been not.
Yeah, against late night hosts Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, Stephen Colbert, that kind of stuff.
So the late night category is my favorite category at the Emmys, and it is one of the only ones I pay attention to because for a long time, because of the way the thing was worded, John Oliver was in the same space as them, despite not interviewing anyone, and he would win because he had a 30-minute set show, and they had an interview, and so one of them looked more impressive than the other, and so last night tonight was like all scripted and shit too, and so he'd win every year, and then they would get mad and they'd be like, "That's not fair. Take him out." And they finally last year took John Oliver out, but all of the main late night people lost again to Trevor Noah. And if they lose this year to Hot Ones, I will be so happy.
That'd be hilarious.
Don't give any of the Jimmys
or Good Mythical Morning. Also fair.
An Emmy ever again. Just Kimmel, Fallon, Colbert, none of them get an Emmy ever again. We just keep putting in new people, and then they get the award.
Colbert, out of the three of them, is the only one I would want to see win an Emmy. The Jimmys, they could do without.
So, have you watched or played The Last of Us, Nikhil?
I've watched The Last of Us.
Cool, because we have season 2 tiny update. The premiere will happen the first half of next year now, officially.
Okay.
So it's coming relatively soon. And Jeffrey Wright will reprise his role as Isaac for Last of Us Season 2. He played that same role in the game as well. And Josh loves this series and these games so much. So do you have any thoughts on that, Josh?
It's very cool that they got him back because in the game he's only in like 2 scenes. It's not like a spoiler or anything. So I really hope that they give him a lot more in this, just because Jeffrey Wright is amazing in everything that he does.
Because he's a great actor, because he's a pretty famous actor at this point. I feel like they'll give him more of a role.
Yeah, I think they'd buff him up because isn't Nick Offerman's character also like really different or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like they did the same with Jeffrey Wright. They'd give him a lot more spotlight.
Also, Nick Offerman's episode was amazing in every way. One of my favorite episodes of TV in a long time in general.
Yeah, no, that was a really good episode.
Yeah, so I give both these news pieces a yay. I'm more excited about the fact that we're getting this coming out relatively within like 6 to 7 months probably, so that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Season 1 was one of my favorite shows in years that I've seen that's come out new, and it was a delight to be looking forward to something next week, every week on TV. And that made me
Could have
happy.
been doing that with
Well,
X-Men, but you chose not to.
Look, that's true, but I knew for a fact that Josh was watching it weekly, and I wanted to see how the binge model versus weekly release would affect our viewing. That was my intention.
Well,
and I apologize. I'm serious. Okay. I'm not going to fight you on that. We got Knives Out news. Knives Out 3 has a title of Wake Up, Dead Man.
yeah, they're taking the Agatha Christie series approach of making the third one just a horror film, I guess, for some reason.
Looks like it.
That would be so cool if they make it a horror movie.
I saw someone say they wanted it to be like a supernatural film. I do not want that at all.
No.
I assume it's both. I think it's going to be spoofish in the way that the other two have been as well, but it is very much ringing like the Agatha Christie series did A Haunting in Venice for their third one, and now this one is doing Wake Up, Dead Man. Like, I think it's going to be, they're going to play with the supernatural
It gives
stuff.
like a vague vampiric vibe to me.
Isn't like the logo's got like a coffin in it too? I think they're definitely wading into that area, which is like a true, real area of detective fiction.
On Discord, I'm sending you the picture of the logo I have.
I think it's just going to be a lot of Benoit Blanc being like, oh, it does not have a coffin. Okay, I was wrong.
No,
but
it's just like the fonts,
But
whatever.
I think it's gonna be a lot of Benoit Blanc being like, "There's no such thing as the supernatural," and everyone else to be like, "Oh my god, a vampire!" I think that's
Abigail 2, starring Benoit Blanc.
I'm still waiting for the day that Rian Johnson figures out a way to put Benoit Blanc in a Muppets movie.
One day. Well, that's the
One
thing.
day.
Rian Johnson's favorite thing to do is just break down genre every movie he makes.
Right.
And he's like, well, what if instead of rules, we just didn't? And then
We just
I
didn't.
think that's going to be this movie.
Title is cool. I liked Glass Onion a lot. I liked Knives Out a lot, so I'm fine with both. Whatever.
It annoys me that Netflix is still titling it a Knives Out mystery. Like, no, it's a Benoit Blanc mystery. Like,
Yeah, but you gotta, you know why they do it? It's so that when you go on HBO Max and you type in Knives Out, all three come up. And that's what the same thing with like Furiosa. It's just for that. It's really weird. It's all search engine
Solo,
optimization.
a Star Wars story. Sure, yay. I'm neutral, but yay.
Yeah.
And we have we're getting into now like the Marvel-y stuff that's happening lately.
Woo!
We're almost there. I have one other thing before that, and it's being reported that Loki director, a show that Nikhil actually worked on.
I knew the directors. Which one?
Kate Herron, she'll be directing the Margot Robbie produced Sims movie.
Kate Herron, I assume, was the first season, so I lied. I don't know.
Yeah,
my apologies.
Potentially. But she'll still a fun season overall.
I'm hype for the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I love that franchise so goddamn much. I don't know what they're doing and why it's rebooting with Margot Robbie, but I'm one of the few people who believes it can survive without Jack Sparrow if they do it correctly. So I'm hoping beyond hope. We need good gothic fantasy in this world. And it's really was the only thing that was like high budget blockbuster gothic fantasy. And I need it back. Bring it back to me.
So, have you played Sims much, Nikhil?
Have I played what?
Sims.
Oh, I lied. So this was about Sims? I thought this was about the Margot Robbie Pirates movie.
No. This is about the...
I thought Margot Robbie was doing that one herself, the Sims movie.
She's not directing it. She's producing it and maybe starring in it.
Oh, well, I don't give a fuck about the Sims movie. Sorry. That's very Barbie.
I'm mostly kind of curious most on how much this is moving forward.
It's because Barbie did well. And then they're like, what's another Barbie-ish thing? And then they were like, Margot Robbie, please.
Make it a horror movie. Have someone like removing ladders while people are swimming. Have people be trapped in boxes and can't stop cooking.
You know what I personally have always wanted to see in a Sims-like movie? Like, I never thought to do it with the actual Sims. I thought like with a fake version of the Sims for movie rights purposes. But do the story of Christ. That's what I'd like to see. I want to see a man who's playing The Sims, who gets really invested in The Sims, and then decides to somehow inject his brain into one of the Sims and be born as a Sim, and then live amongst the Sims, and then tell the Sims that he's actually the player and that he made all of them the way they are, and then have them kill him for it. I think that would be so fun.
Starring Margot Robbie, directed by Kate Herron.
That's what I've always wanted to make a movie like that, but like again with like a fake Sims. But if they do it with the actual name brand Sims brand, that'd be awesome. So they should do that.
Do you have any thoughts on Kate Herron directing this though?
No.
No. She seems good enough.
Yeah, she's fine for the Sims movie. Like I don't care. I had a point when I thought she was directing the fucking Pirates film. I know the Pirates film just got confirmed to actually be happening, so that's why I thought we were talking about it.
No, I apologize. That was not on this list.
Well,
but I give it a yay just because I think she's a good director. One of my favorite things about Loki season 1 was the direction. So we have news came out that Rahul Kohli was going to be lost Pedro Pascal to play Mr. Fantastic in Fantastic Four, who's up for the role. Do you all think he would have been a good?
He was my fan cast for a long time.
Okay.
I really wanted him.
I think he could have been really well in the role. I'm excited to see what Pedro can do because it wasn't on my radar at all. But I think that he would have done a really good job with the role.
I think both are great choices. Not mad at either one. But I was just curious what you guys thought about that idea, if you had any major thoughts.
I'm worried about Pedro a little bit. But also, I don't know. There's two ways you can do Reed Richards, and that's either as lovable goofball or hard ass father, and those are like the two things that Pedro plays. So I'm sure he can do either option, but I would have really liked Rahul Kohli.
Joke's on you. Mask on the whole time. He's not playing it Mandalorian style.
What mask? What mask?
I know they're just gonna add a new. I'm saying like they're gonna add some kind of helmet, so we let him have the day off the whole time. We're also getting a Vision TV show with Paul Bettany set to return in 2026.
Yep. With
Terry Matalas, who did Star Trek Picard, as a showrunner for this. It's cool seeing Vision again, I guess. White Vision since WandaVision.
It's one of those things of like, yeah, they set it up, but also like it undoes the the ending to WandaVision, like where she finally says goodbye to him. Like that's why I didn't like White Vision existing, because I knew they were going to continue it, and it's just like, so death both does matter and also doesn't matter now.
That's very Marvel though.
I know, but this isn't like comics of like where the story can go on forever. Like this is something that should have some kind of finality to it in a certain aspect.
One of the parts I liked the least in the WandaVision was when White Vision just took off and was like, well, that's a sequel.
I am Vision.
And
Yep.
I mean, they announced this like back then too, and it did great. It kind of reminds me of like the Agatha show of like everyone now is like, why are we getting an Agatha show? And it's like because for like a hot second, Agatha was the biggest property at Marvel. Like everyone fucking could not get enough of Agatha. Her stupid song hit #1. Like that's why they greenlit an Agatha show. It's not their fault that TV takes time, and it's now 2 years later and no
Right.
one likes Agatha anymore. But like they did that. They announced a Jimmy Woo show that they've like slowly
Yeah.
put back under
Oh
the
yeah,
rug.
that's right.
And they announced this Vision show, and it's like they really thought WandaVision was going to be their Iron Man of TV, and they were going to have everything coming out of it. And it's just TV doesn't work like that. It took them too long. So
I mean, to be fair, when WandaVision came out, it was huge.
It was.
Like the week to week was amazing for it. But then Marvel kind of remembers, oh yeah, like
Mephisto.
yeah, and they're kind of like, oh yeah, TV not only takes time, our brand of TV takes even longer because of like the scope of it all.
yeah, no, I mean it would have been fine if maybe this was the next Marvel show we were getting after WandaVision. But we've had like 7, and they've not all been well received, and so I don't know who's left
Right.
to watch Agatha all along, but we will find out. It'd be hilarious if Agatha is just great, though. If Agatha comes out and is also phenomenal, and everyone's obsessed with it again, and Marvel's back in the limelight in a good way, then they nailed it. Then Vision Quest will do great, because then apparently Wanda's the safest TV show.
Watch Agatha have a theme song with the same like rhythm as Agatha all along.
I think its theme song will be Agatha all along.
Yeah, I think they're just gonna use it.
Use this song.
I do think so. It's literally called Agatha all along at this point. Like they're
I
not
know.
shying from it. But also, I'm intrigued by the show because it's very overwhelmingly practical effects. It had like the smallest amount of practical effects in Marvel TV when it was being made, or the smallest amount of visual effects in Marvel TV when it was being made, which is crazy for the Magic show. And also, the sort of meta narrative they're playing with was what the best part of WandaVision was. So I'm very happy to see it come back, but I just don't know about anything else that's going on.
And our so yay or nay on the Vision TV show officially still moving forward, and we're getting it like next year or 2
I'm gonna give it
2026.
a nay because I just don't know if I give a shit, and especially in
Unless they
2026.
give me like a really compelling story idea, it's a nay for me.
Unless they let me work on it, in which case it's a yay.
I mean, yeah, same. I mean, episode 9 of WandaVision to me was my least favorite episode of that show.
Is that the last one? Or was the last one 10?
Yeah,
Yeah, the last one. That's the real issue with WandaVision. They didn't stick the landing. If they had stuck the
No.
landing, it would have genuinely gone down as one of the best shows. But the last, I'd say 3 episodes really bombed it.
we're all really good. I like everything besides the right before the very ending for me. I just was
Well,
also the having. We'll get into that. We don't have time for WandaVision right now, but I will say that overall, I think White Vision at least not being completely forgotten about is a good thing for the MCU.
I guess. I like that it's a TV show. I feel like the more on brand thing at this point would have been for them to be like, we made WandaVision and now here's a White Vision movie, and everyone would have been like, who's that? So I like that this is at least another show. That's good.
Right. So our last piece of news today involves X-Men, and according to Deadline, an X-Men movie is moving forward with the writer of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So
Love the writer choice because I love that movie. Am upset because I just contacted Marvel and they told me they didn't have jobs, and I would like to be on this movie. So if they could please make a job for me, that'd be great. Here's hoping that they learned the correct lesson from X-Men 97, which is that they should do X-Men well and not
black leather suits, no real personalities.
Well, the thing with X-Men
all
97
of that.
was they got someone who was a super fan. But they also fired him, so I don't know if they learned that lesson. And then they got like they did the X-Men unashamedly. And I know people are saying that it's because it's animation, it's easier, and that is like true. And honestly, if you look at Wolverine in the new Deadpool Wolverine stuff, people have like made fan edits of him wearing the mask, and I will not lie, it looks kind of ridiculous. So I understand that sometimes you can't do it all in live action, but I think if you adapt the stories genuinely, you have a great movie on your hands. And I think this writer has proven to be good at adaptation. So I hope that she does that. I wish it was someone who was a huge X-Men fan, like Bo DeMaio was.
The fact that we've gotten 2 attempts at the Phoenix Saga And Josh, before the show, had never heard of the Shi'ar. Is a
Nope.
funny
Where's the
thing to
Shi'ar?
me.
They're in the second Phoenix movie, aren't they?
They were aliens. They never said who they were.
No.
At least I don't think they did.
Well, the bad guy aliens are the Dabari, which is hilarious. Do you know who the Dabari are?
I'm not very familiar.
The Dabari
Nope.
are the ones that she kills. Like the famous Jean eats a planet thing are
Oh,
the
okay,
Dabari planet. That's all they are. They're
Gotcha.
just the people that Jean killed as a Phoenix. And then I guess this movie was like, what if they had agency and also we're bad guys, so we feel less bad when she eats their planet. And then
Yeah, I like this writer choice a lot. I think my biggest issue with Battle of Songbirds and Snakes was some pacing issues. That's because they had to do a lot from that book. So
I think if there's any Hunger Games book to turn into 2 movies, it was Songbirds and Snakes.
Songbirds and Snakes just kept going. I was like, we've reached the end. I was getting out of my seat, and then they were like, nope, we got a whole other half of this film. And I was like, oh, okay.
they got before, during the games, and a lot of time after.
And a lot of time after. It was good, but I was like, wow, I thought this was just an excuse to show a different Hunger Game. Like, I didn't realize how far we were going with this.
Yeah, I'm again similar to Nikhil. I'm happy to make action movies. I hope I get to work on it at some point. I mean, that's what I want to do at this point. Let's get into the show X-Men '97 season 1, which they are making season 2. New showrunner,
Season
but
3.
I know that was also announced literally yesterday, I think. But it was like
Literally,
that's awesome.
Dude, you get all your
They're
news
already-
too late. They announced season 3 like after the second episode came out.
Really?
Yes.
I saw a report about it yesterday, and I don't know what it was about.
Ah.
I've been actually avoiding X-Men '97 was blocked on like all of my stuff for a long time.
Oh, well, no
That's
wonder
true.
it looks like it came out yesterday then. Mister, I watched it all last night.
It was so funny when I was watching it week to week. I kept telling him, especially when I got to 5, I was just like, "You need to watch this. I can't stress this enough." He's like, "I'll get to it." I'm just like, "That's not the answer I'm looking for."
Is the idea that we're going to do this episode by episode? Or.
No, we can talk about the whole show as a whole.
Okay.
There are spoilers throughout this whole segment, so if you have not seen it yet, or timestamps down below, you can skip around next.
I watched the first 3 at the premiere, which I was not invited to, but I went as a guest of someone else. And I say that because it bugged me, because when I got there, I found some friends of mine, and then I asked some person, I was like, how does someone get invited to stuff like this? And they're like, oh, this time we weren't prioritizing creators, we were prioritizing fans, which annoyed me, because I went as the guest of my creator friend. And so I was like, if you were prioritizing fans, I feel like this should have been flipped. I was fine when this person was just more famous than me, but now I'm offended. But anyway, I saw the first day at the premiere, and I remember I was like, okay with the first episode, and then the second episode started, and then I was like, well, that was great. And then the third episode started, and I was like, that was even better. And I was like, so it just got better each time. And by the time I ended, I was like, this was really good, because I came in with no expectation. I was like, they're gonna.
Right.
I'm not an overly big fan of the '90s show. I like it's fine. It's not my favorite of the X-Men animated series. And then I just was like, at least it's X-Men in the news. So I went and saw it, and then I was like, oh no, this is actually fantastic, and I do love it. And then I saw the 4th episode at home, and I was like, I was wrong. They robbed me. They lied to me, and made me think it was going to get better every episode. And now we're back to this. And then the 5th episode came out, and I have lots of things to say about that. But from that point on, we were back to getting it better and better every episode. So I don't know what happened in episode 4, but I overwhelmingly huge fan of the show. My favorite adaptation.
Episode 4 is also 2 episodes in it.
Yeah, episode 4
Just-
reeks
It
of
was 2 episodes.
bad pacing. Like it seems like they needed stuff done at a certain point, and so they cut up a Jubilee episode to add the stuff they needed for Life Death, and then it left both feeling quite weak, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. I want to get into some just general thoughts overall. You all overall, yay the show as a whole.
Yes,
So
Very
far.
much so.
best adaptation.
This is
so far.
literally my same thought. This is my favorite interpretation of the X-Men ever on screen so far, which is makes me curious about what's going to happen in season 2 and 3. Where are they going with this story?
Well,
I'm
season
There's
so
a lot you could-
curious.
season 2, we know we're getting Blood of Apocalypse, and
Right.
we're getting the future adventures of Scott and Jean, which is a hilarious combination. My favorite part of the show is that, and I know it's on purpose because I know Bodemeyer actually loves the X-Men, so at least for the first 2 seasons, is the blending of storylines is absolutely unhinged. Like to do
Yes.
Fatal Attractions as the consequence of E for Extinction is absurd, but it works really well in this show. And so I would never have in a million years thought to combine Blood of Apocalypse, which is the story where Gambit becomes a horseman, and The Future Adventures of Scott and Jean, which is when they're in the future with Baby
Mhm.
Cable. But you know what?
Babel.
I'm sold by all of this. I'm like, all right, well, whatever this is, we'll do it because these guys could blend stories together like no one's business. And I do think the secret big bad is Onslaught. I think like this show presented like the baddie at the beginning, like you know you had Maddie and Sinister and
Yeah.
everyone, and then it turned out that it's all actually Bastion at the end. I think this is going to be Apocalypse at the beginning, and then Onslaught at the end, which again would not have been my choice, but they keep making good moves, so we'll see how it is. They have all of the benefit of the doubt, in my opinion.
The level of balancing these stories, though, overall, like each in and maneuvering them together,
Yeah.
was impressive.
Mm-hmm.
That was what I was most shocked by. Like I felt like some things were a little bit disjointed because again, I watched it when I'm like, binging, but because I'm like something I talked to Josh like, we're like when Forge said "I love you" to Storm. I'm like, well, hold on, we're here for like a minute or two. What?
Yeah.
How much time has passed?
That was I think part of why they tried to cut Life Death into 2 episodes was to make people think that they were together longer.
Or together longer,
But
because I'm like, you were here for like a week. I thought, what's going on? And I'm like,
well,
wait
you
a
also
minute.
remember, like the entirety of Genosha happens while Storm's hanging
Right.
out with him. So like,
I realized that after the fact. I'm like, wait a second, and I put it together. I'm like, that was just like a weird moment for me. It's like there were a few moments like that throughout the show, but overall, I'm just immaculately impressed.
yes, and I think the use of the sprawling comics continuity as a mechanism for how to like as a resource to weave all these stories together instead of just being like, oh, I'm going to throw all this out because it doesn't make sense, is inspired. And it's the kind of thing you only get from someone like when you have a creative team that's so invested. And I really hope we move forward.
You get the line like, "What did you expect? Yellow, black leather," which is just like, yeah, that's the whole vibe of the show as a whole. Though it's like those movies did it wrong. Let's try again.
But my other thing with Life Death is a big comic critique that came from this show was everyone being like, how did they fall in love so quickly? And it's like, not to say it's better because of this, like you can have your own critiques for different mediums, but to be fair, Storm and Forge meet, fall in love, and then she discovers that he created the weapon that depowered her, and then they break up in one book in the comics, in a single
Really?
issue. That's what Life Death is. It's one comic.
Okay.
It's I think a little longer of a comic, but it's one comic. They show up and they go through the whole arc. They fall in love,
Okay.
they break up, and then they're done.
Then I guess it's more time here at least.
Yeah, well, it's like a
Um,
day in the comic, so yeah, it's definitely more time for this one.
The Storm arc is my favorite arc in this series. I think.
I like
me
it.
personally.
I find it. I wish she had come back more substantially
Earlier,
Um,
yes.
because she does come back in the finale, right? Is that my thought? It was just the episode
It-
before.
Yeah, it's like near the finale. She comes back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She makes clothes with lightning at one point. Pretty cool.
Yeah. It's good to see. She has that in the comic too. That's a very weird pull.
Well, I mentioned to Josh, I'm like, how did she go in a cave? When at one point there's a cave full of lightning, grow your hair back.
The hair is
And make you an
absurd.
outfit.
That was really funny to me. Is she just suddenly summoned hair? Because in the comics, she can make new clothes with her weather powers because Chris Claremont thinks weather can do anything. And then, but I've never thought about her being able to grow hair. That seems a
That
little
was wild.
absurd. But you know, what?
Activate the follicles fast.
No, I love the Storm arc. I do because I made a video actually joking about Xavier, who like shows back up in I think the second to last episode, and like crashes in and is like, "I hope I'm not too late." And it's like, "You are."
Do you want to talk about your favorite moment, your Gambit moment here?
Okay, so that was a wild day because my partner works, so we watch the show when they come home from work usually.
Yeah.
And like I like TV and I like fandom, and I'm never really tempted to watch before. Like I'm fine just not looking at the leaks. But then I woke up to a bajillion First of all, like I said, I have a friend Star Superhero. He's obsessed with Moon Knight. I made
He's
a
great.
Moon Knight video for the first time ever, and all of my comments were, "How is this what you're talking about today?" And I was like, "What?" And then a lot of people were like, "We need to see your reaction." And then I started getting texts from friends in real life asking me if I was okay, and I was like, "Something has happened." And in my head, I knew I was like the only way to get this level of reaction from people. Like, I was getting like Instagram DMs and stuff from strangers, just being like, "Are you good?" And I was like, the only way to get this level of reaction from people is if Gambit's dead. But I was like, why would they kill Gambit in this fun TV show that we have. But the last episode was about Jubilee learning that she should grow up in Mojo Land. I don't understand why they'd kill Gambit all of a sudden. So I watched
The
it.
back and forth is wild.
So I watched it and I was like, okay, we're still just vibing. And what's really funny is that morning also I was in my Discord. And there's like a section on my Discord that's for spoilers, but then I wasn't in that section, obviously. But I was talking, and someone was like, "Oh, I heard they might do E for Extinction the previous night." And then I woke up, and I was like, "They're not going to do E for Extinction, that Disney Plus cartoon. There's zero chance that happens." And
That's the Genosha event, right?
yeah, that's the where the Genosha.
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
And then so I watched the show. They do it, and I go into the spoiler section of my Discord, and it's all people memeing on that comment that I had made. It's just people in my own Discord making fun of me for saying that morning, as Gambit had already died. But anyway, all that aside, my journey to seeing Gambit die aside, I loved it.
Kind of spoiled.
I knew it was coming. I was waiting to see if it would actually happen, and then I was very confused for the second where it looked like Magneto was dying, and I was like, they're doing 2 sacrifices? Because I'm like,
Right.
I was like, are they gonna kill Gambit after this? That seems weird. Or are people asking if I'm okay about Magneto? But that was like the moment of doubt that I had. But no, I loved it. I think it's the greatest, one of the best Gambit moments in fiction
Ever.
I think
Yeah.
it's really good. Gambit's not a
Remember
character
it.
who usually gets the big fancy death, which I think why it's a really good pick for him. It's just like the most shocking death is Gambit because he doesn't die usually. I think
If it was Jean, you'd expect it.
yeah, like Jean or Cyclops or anyone really, you'd be like, yeah, this is a thing that would happen in this show. But like Gambit just that's not the kind of character he is. He doesn't have the big sacrificial death. And I think giving it to him did wonders, A, for the character's popularity, which is great, and B, just really solidified him as one of the best parts of that show. And I had not been overly impressed with Gambit in the 90s show, and I was not overly impressed in the first few episodes of this show, because he is just a very side character sort of guy. And I was like, he has about as much depth as I expected that this show to give him. And then that one episode, the whole time, they give him so much more depth.
So much yearning in his eyes the whole time.
It's also,
Yeah.
they do one of my favorite things, which there's a line in an X-23 comic where the whole bit is that Gambit's like taking care of X-23 because she's like still a kid, and Gambit loves taking care of kids. And Gambit is talking to someone, and he says, "You've probably heard a lot about me on the X-Men." And he's like, "It's all true, except for the womanizing." And I think that that's like my favorite interpretation of Gambit, is someone who like
Yeah.
puts on this stance of like, oh, he's a fuckboy or anything, but he's not really. And this episode canonizing beforehand that it was him who wanted a relationship with Rogue, and the reason they were so like dubious the whole original
Mhm.
series is because of Rogue, and that he holds like some resentment of that, of like, you didn't want to be my girlfriend. I thought was really interesting right before it all went to shit.
And then also her realization of it is deeper than touch also
Yeah.
was amazing. And then she couldn't prove that to him in time and
Well, because
everything.
he was gone. It's so
Right.
sad.
It's terrifying.
Also, they
Uh-huh.
did again. One of the things that you can only do when you really, really, really care about these characters is something that this show does a lot, where they give sort of cosmic justice to these characters for wrongs that they did in the comics, usually because of editorial mandate. Like Scott refusing to give up his kid is like very
Right.
much just like, well, Scott in the comics did, but this Scott's not going to. And then
Right.
with Gambit, the biggest sin that they added to Gambit that I have many issues with is they retconned him into being a part of the Mutant Massacre, which happened years before he had ever been created. And they established that he was one of the reasons all of the Morlocks died. And so before he dies, have the Morlocks literally say there are no friends in the X-Men, and then have Gambit show up, save them, and then call them all his friends, and then go and die to protect them is beautiful. I love that they gave
Yes.
him a little bit of cosmic retribution right before his end. Because if it happened in the comics, that would be the perfect way for him to go out.
As I was watching, I wrote down like quotes and different notes as I was going through to remember and talk about. And it's funny how deeper and more unhinged they get to me as it goes through the show. Like episode 1 is a joke line. It's Jean clearly in labor and saying, "Logan, he's here." Who? Apocalypse?
That's so funny.
And it's like
that was really
That was great.
hilarious.
that was amazing. And then we go to the next episode where we had the quote written down, "We are what we remember."
Mhm.
Like, how does we go so fast
well,
to these deep moments?
I made a video on YouTube before this, and I was like, okay, so here's what I think the show's going to be doing, because we have all these different plot lines. We have like the pregnant Jean and Magneto on trial and everything. I was like, it's probably all going to be this one issue of Trial of X-Men, of Trial of Magneto, because this is where all of these plots go in. And I was like, we'll probably build up to that throughout the season. And then they were like, no, that's episode
Immediately.
2. Instantly, we're doing that. And then we have other things that you could not have imagined.
Right.
Which is what I think is for season 2 as well. Like, they set up, the teaser is like, oh, Apocalypse in like 3 different timelines. And what is he going to do? And I think it'll be wrapped up by episode 2. I think that it's all a red herring.
So, Josh, have you watched anything past the first episode of the original 92 to 97 show?
No, but after watching this, I really want to, just to see the build up
It's
to
not,
it.
not the same. Not
It's
the same
going to be a
quality.
letdown. This is so much better than the 90s show. It's hilarious. The first few
There
seasons...
are great moments, though, in the original shows, too.
The
There are
first
still
few
great
seasons
moments.
of the 90s show, I think, really are good. Like, up till probably the end of season 2, maybe season 3. I don't remember what really happens. And then it just gets outlandish. The original 90s show is always funny to me because they dare to ask... They have a team that doesn't exist in both versions of this. This is not a team that's ever been on the X-Men together. But in the original show, they're doing, like, the Dark Phoenix saga. And it's like, dares to ask, what would have happened to the Dark Phoenix saga if Rogue and Gambit were there? And the answer is nothing. They would do nothing. They just don't show up. It's so funny. The 90s show characters will disappear for like 6 episodes at a time, and they will
It's
not tell
weird.
you where they are. They're not present because they didn't need them. And so it's like, oh, Storm, haven't seen you in a hot minute, but thanks for coming back.
I will say, I do appreciate this show versus the original, adding more Nightcrawler.
And doing him right, and not doing stupid, sad monk Nightcrawler.
I was surprised how long it took to bring him into it, because I was just like, it wasn't until 5 when he shows up. I was just like, oh, where have you been? And then he
Then
shows
don't
up. He's
watch
there for
the
the rest of
original.
it.
Because he's not in the team. It's really so being packaged.
It's wild.
Being packaged with the 90s show makes it harder because they have all this continuity they have to keep, which is why a lot of characters don't really show up in this series, because a lot of them have endings and resolutions and shit. But Kurt is very explicitly in the 90s show not on the team. He's a monk in like the Alps, and
He's in like 3 episodes.
he's in
It's
like
very little.
he's in 2 episodes, I'm pretty sure. Because he's in the original episode where he's a monk in the Alps, and then he's in another episode where he shows up at the mansion and is like, I need help being a monk in the Alps. And they go back to the Alps.
I thought the first one was 2-part. That's why I said that.
Oh,
Yeah,
it might
go
be.
on.
They love the 2-parter. But but anyway, like, so he has no interest being on the team in the original series because he's just a monk. And
Yep.
I was like, there's no way to work him in and keep him a monk. And so what they do is they have one line where Gambit asks him something about like, oh, don't you need to go to your monastery in the Alps? And Kurt's like, no. And that's just, they just move on. And I was like,
Yep.
this is brilliant. Thank God that we're not holding to this.
He still is that character. You can see him holding his prayer beads. You can see him like being the devout person he is, and like he's there for religious reasons, like, helping them with faith there and stuff. And like it's a good excuse to get him
It's
there.
sort of a de-Flanderization of him, where
Yes.
being religious has become one of the many things he is again, instead of the only thing he is. Which for a long time in adaptations, all they cared about was the religious part. Like even the movies.
Like
I don't
those
understand why.
markings for each sin in the original movies. It's like that was a choice to me.
Yeah. No, but this was like, we got to see actual swashbuckling, fun-loving
Yes!
Nightcrawler, and it was great.
Him using his tail to hold a sword like the comics made me so happy.
It was
I loved
great.
that so much. For anyone who's new to our show or new specifically to Nikhil on his TikTok page, you can probably tell at this point, he absolutely loves Gambit to death and always has. Hence, you can see all the people concerned. But yeah, I talked a little bit about how like his Gambit is like my Nightcrawler, and seeing him for once though, you get like to see Gambit having a more amazing moment on screen in a media show than Nightcrawler gets.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Congrats.
It is. Gambit doesn't do much in things. It's really annoying.
No.
But this show, even the show, he didn't do much before.
No, but he had,
But he had a
episode 5
banger
alone.
episode, and then it was his death. And you know what? I'm fine with it. At least he got a spotlight for a second.
My favorite X-Men show before this was Evolution,
Mhm.
and I've seen that show numerous times. And the latter half is so good at that. And I didn't think that originally this was going to top that until I started watching it.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite was Wolverine and the X-Men, and I also did not.
I have a note about that in this actually. They have Kurt in Genosha in a similar way they had Kurt in Genosha in Wolverine and the X-Men as well, playing a similar role, which I really thought was like a cool parallel.
I think it
as
was
well.
on purpose, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think I love that a lot. Like, it didn't have the same like excitement of like, hey, it's a place I can be me and stuff, and that was really cool. I also absolutely love that the Ross gag of Hulk-proof stuff doesn't work continues here. He's like, this is made a kid out of the Hulk. Rogue breaks in immediately.
That was
People
so
like,
funny.
people online were like, so she's stronger than the Hulk? Like, no, Ross's stuff doesn't work.
I mean, but also I think it is supposed to say she's stronger than the Hulk. The whole point is that
Yeah.
Rogue is not to be messed with.
I'm saying I was not like the definitive one answer though of what you could say.
Yeah.
And I at least liked Rogue is amazing, and her entire story in this.
Her arc is so good.
Oh yeah,
and it's also
amazing.
It's Colossus's arc from Fatal Attractions is what it is, but it doesn't become clear until episode 9. And so I was just like, wow, what are we doing with Rogue this whole time? And then the pieces snap together because in Fatal Attractions, which is the story where Magneto releases the EMT and then pulls out the metal from Wolverine's bones, and it's basically the finale of the show. It's also where Charles attacks him with his brain, and they make Onslaught. Everything that happens in the last 3 episodes basically is Fatal Attractions. But it starts with a little bit before Colossus's little sister dies, and that's what makes him be like, yo, Xavier, your whole system's kind of fucked. And then Magneto shows up at a funeral and is like, hey, who wants to be on my team because Xavier's system's kind of fucked. And Colossus is like, ooh, me. They were always doing a bit of like, is Charles correct? The whole show. But then to have Rogue so seamlessly slide into this path and be the one to join Magneto in the show and have that set up with like the whole Queen of Genosha thing and everything was so beyond brilliant. I was so confused what we were doing, and then it all snapped together, and I was like, no, this actually rocked a lot.
Also, I love that we get references to Colossus and magic and things like that in this show as well. Morph's transpirations to a bunch of other characters. It was so cool at the time.
Morph
this raises a question for me about Morph is that are they the most powerful mutant in existence?
They're a cameo machine, and if you try to think about their powers, you'll die.
It's awful. Don't do it.
Okay, I just want some clarity because I'm just like they're transforming into like everyone and like they seem to have the abilities of the people they transform into.
Morph started as a joke character to be killed off in episode 1 of the original show.
Yes, he's based on a character who only existed to be retconned as a reason why Charles Xavier was alive because we had seen Charles Xavier die. And then they took that and they made another character who only existed to die. And I'm well on the record for hating Morph in the original show. I do not like him. I don't like his continued existence in things. This show, I liked him a bit more, mainly because they took all of the beats that were between Wolverine and Nightcrawler and made them Wolverine and Morph beats. And then, including, which annoys me to no end, they made Morph actually gay and actually be able to love Wolverine, which they can't do with Kurt, which annoys me on one end because it should have been Kurt, and on the other end because now when I say I hate Morph, I have people come into my comments who think I'm a homophobe, and I don't want that. So I have to like scale down my Morph hate. I went on there was some fan cast video, and they've like fan casted Morph for the movies, and I was like, oh god, don't let Morph be in the movies. And I got so many comments in response that were like, oh, look at this. Like, oh, actually, I think he's great in the show. You don't understand what's good about the X-Men. I was like, I do. I just don't like Morph.
Telling you don't know what's good about the X-Men is very funny to me.
I mean, I'm just a guy on the internet. Not everyone knows who I am.
No, I know. It's just funny to me because the amount of videos you put out content for this specific thing is very niche thing, and you talk about every day, all the time.
I will say,
it's like
I'm very
funny.
It's like conceited, but like I am very sad. I put so much time into be the X-Men guy on TikTok before anyone gave a real fuck. Like when they were still like not in movies or anything. So like the fandom had died a little bit. And I was like, no, I'm going to be the X-Men guy. And now the fandom's fully back, which is great because I love to see fan edits of a Gambit and shit. But they all do like promotions. Like they flew a bunch of people out to the X-Mansion and stuff, and I don't get the invite, and it makes me so sad. I like, please, just invite me. I just want to be the X-Men guy. Who are you going to be?
Now, there are a bunch of things in here that are very heavy in the show.
Oh, yeah.
Like I wrote down the final dream was terrifying. And didn't like that whole painting that he has a kid.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which, the wording of that is very similar to a different actual dictator in our real world.
Yep.
And his plan, didn't like that at all.
I just can't believe that this show made Bastion so fucking cool. Like, Bastion is...
The outfit even looked cool in this. The outfit looks stupid to me in the comics.
Bastion's like a... I've never heard a good word about Bastion in my entire life until this show.
I hadn't heard of him until like 3 weeks ago when people started talking about him like this in general.
He's a part of a very, I think it's called Zero Tolerance.
Yeah, OCT.
And it's fine. Like it's so funny to me that because I met Bo DeMaio at like a bar, not like at a fancy thing, but I met him and I asked him about this, and he's just literally obsessed with Bastion. Like as a kid, he would apparently like play like pretend games as the X-Men fighting Bastion. And I was like, I'm so happy that you made your favorite villain relevant because now people care about Bastion, and that's all you. Like, man, good job.
A lot of stuff in the show also feels very real to things that are happening currently in our world.
Oh yeah.
And I don't like that. That was not fun. But there was one line that stuck to me a lot, and that was because when your skin's not in the game, apathy is the answer. I'm like, that's just what we see all around.
I don't know how political we want to get, but there's a line in the second episode that I don't remember exactly, but it's something along the lines of Magneto talking and saying that he's watched his people go from oppressed to oppressor, which is a very interesting line to include in this show, especially given the other controversies around Marvel at this moment. But
in seeing episode 5 specifically and seeing the reaction of Magneto to everything happening, and the moment where you can see him defending Morlocks, you can see him having a flashback to his own time in concentration camps, and he shouts "Never again."
Yeah,
and that moment it gave me chills, and I almost started weeping. It was very powerful and very moving. I'm like, and the fact that we go again, episode 4 was Motendo.
Yep.
And the Storm hanging out with Force, and then we go. So right after that,
to be fair, life death is like pretty serious. Like that's like Storm's like suicidal in her half of that.
It's just the wild transition to me of what we get. Like again, Motendo was episode 4 as well.
Motendo is just such a tonal outlier of this show. Like that's the only part that would really fit in the 90s series seamlessly. And
I could see episode 1 mostly working though as well.
I mean episode 1 could like it'd be fine. But like even stuff like at the end with the master mold and stuff, I think is at a higher level than the 90s show ever really got. Motendo is like what the 90s show was making.
What was everyone's, do you think, fair episode and best episode separately if you have one?
5 for both. I think. I know generally.
Yeah, I had to go 5.
I think 5 is like gonna win an Emmy. I think 5 is one of the best episodes of TV we had in a bit, and the way it segued the show into what it was going to be from that moment on was brilliant.
I think 5 is the best episode. I think one of the 3-parters is probably my favorite to watch because I was like tense the entire time as well, and I thought it was really well done. I also thought the ending they really did like land it, which I was also
they absolutely
like,
they landed it.
Surprising.
It was great, such a good finale. That was the finale I saw about Demiro because I went to a bar to watch it because they were doing like a watch party, and then he just like stopped by, so I was like, oh wow, look at that. But
might as well ask.
No, God, that finale. Watching it in a room like that, though, where everyone was just hyped to see it, was so good.
We already touched on this earlier, but at least favorite episode for everyone is that episode 4 as well.
Yeah.
It's just a tonal mess. That's the real reason why. It's not necessarily bad. It doesn't fit with the rest of the show.
I wonder if they were trying to have it be at its cheesiest right before 5, and then just needed to work Life Death in. Because I believe I read somewhere that they had an original, like, full order of 13, and then they had to cut down to 10.
Oh, imagine
Which,
that.
if it's true, 4 is the only casualty, because you cannot tell that in the pacing of the rest of the entire show. But
Agreed. Episode 1, starting with Scott, also being this badass cool guy is kind of cool to see for people who only watch the Fox films.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I said that in my review when I first saw the first 3. I was like, this show is going to be the thing that finally sells people on Scott. And I'm so happy to be right. Because I've seen so many new Cyclops fans after he's been shat on for 20 years. And God, does he deserve it? And I don't
blame James Marsden for that.
No, it's not his fault. They just give him nothing to do. In general, a big perk of this show is that they didn't focus on Wolverine. They knew to keep Wolverine as a side character and to focus on everyone else, and that really excelled.
I also love Roberto in this.
I don't.
So much.
I will be honest. I think Roberto is one of my other minor grievances with the show. He's the only character that feels the most in name only.
Okay, that's fair.
Everyone else feels like really great adaptations, and it feels like they just grabbed a new mutant to do.
Yes, I liked his arc overall. Is what I mean.
His arc is
characterization.
It's totally fine. It's just I have a very hard time buying Sunspot being this self-conscious and mutant-phobic and everything. So that was the sticking point just for me as a fan of the character. But I do think the arc they do is like it's good. It's just doesn't feel like Sunspot ever.
The turn on his mom of, oh, finally you told me. I'm glad you told that. Also, we gotta hide you now.
Yeah,
was painful to watch, and I thought was well done. Josh, what here was completely brand new for you?
Well, I mean, I would say all of them because the movies didn't do really a good job of adapting any of them. But
Didn't
I
you watch
mean,
Wolverine and the X-Men some?
no.
No? Okay.
I mean, Morph is definitely one of them. I've never seen them before in anything. Technically, Jubilee, I would say, because like
The movies.
that those don't count. Those don't count. We're not gonna count them.
Poor Lana Condor.
Yeah, I feel bad for her. But yeah, probably those two would be like the ones that are the newest to me.
Anything plot-wise that was was all plot new for you as well? Like no like beats that were familiar or anything?
The only thing that I knew existed was the Genosha massacre, but that was the only thing I that's all I knew about it. I didn't know the events of it. I didn't know what led to it. I didn't know any of that. I would say, but I'd also say Magneto was probably my favorite this season. I love his arc of being like, okay, Charles is dead, and now he wants me to continue on his dream, and so it's just like, all right, I'm gonna try to do that, do things his way, see how that goes, and he tries for so long.
I love him actually trying. That made me really happy to seeing that.
I know, that was so cool. And then after episode 5, he's just like, okay, I'm fucking done, and just a complete shift, and it's just like, you know what? This is really cool. I really like this.
I also love that we're turning the power off, guys. Just no more power.
That was such a cool moment.
It's something the show does really well is they take moments from these, like Fatal Attractions was an editorial mandate to make Magneto evil again, and it does not work nearly as well in the comics because he's just randomly like, you know what would be fun? Let's EMT the world. But in this show, they build to it so organically, and it works brilliantly. And that's kind of the thing with like Gambit becoming Death in the Horseman of Death in the comics is stupid. He's literally just like, I'm gonna outsmart Apocalypse and get all the powers that turn against him. And Apocalypse is like, this process also warps your mind, dummy. And he's like, what? And then he like does it. And he's like, well, all right. He doesn't even die. He's just literally volunteers for this stupid ass mission. I have so much faith that they're gonna fix it. It's gonna be so good in this version.
Did you ever watch the 90s Spider-Man show
No.
much?
I watched a couple of episodes here and there as a kid, but no real like deep love for it.
You don't know how it ends.
No, I know how it ends. It's a stupid ending.
It's something to do with Mary Jane's like in trouble or something, right?
So Mary Jane was a clone for Seasons.
Okay.
By Hydro Man.
Yeah, and they reveal it at the end, but the show kind of ends on a giant cliffhanger of him going with Madam Web to travel through the multiverse to find
He goes
her
with
something.
Stan Lee.
I thought it was Madam Web. Hold on. What am I missing here?
Stan Lee takes Peter Parker on a journey.
No, I know there's an episode where he meets Stan Lee, like the actual Stan Lee. I thought that he goes with Madam Web at the very end and leaves on a cliffhanger of like what's going to happen next.
I haven't watched it in a bit, but to my recollection, I thought he took Stan Lee's hand and they went to go find Mary Jane. But so according to Botomeo, the way MJ we see at the end is the real MJ. So he found her at some point.
That's great. This is what I said. I hope they take the correct lessons from X-Men 97, and that because I'm really worried the lesson Marvel's going to take from 97 is, oh, let's just remake all the 90s stuff, and we're going to get Spider-Man 98 and Silver Surfer 96 and whatever the fuck else they want. And I just, I hope that doesn't happen.
Spider-Man and his amazing friends with Firestar and Iceman again.
Oh, there was a comic 2 years ago where they like all met up actually, and they helped defeat a bad guy. And then at the end, Spider-Man's literally like, let's never do this again. We do not have complementary powers, and I don't.
They also did that in Ultimate Spider-Man comics as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
And yeah, and like it was a cool reference, but like they didn't go further than that.
It's dumb. I have beef with it solely because the original, it was going to be Human Torch, but then they thought that Spidey living with 2 guys would look gay, and so they changed it to Firestar.
He is a little.
No, he is, and that is also the coding of him with Johnny Storm, and they identified it, so they made Johnny Storm a girl, which upsets me.
Asteroid M in general being in this was awesome.
Yeah.
Because my first time ever seeing Asteroid M was when I was a little kid in season 1 of Evolution. And since then, I've always loved the idea of Magneto's like, you know what? Giant rock, let's get on it.
Asteroid M's an inherently silly concept, but I
absolutely, that's why I love it.
Yeah, it's a fun time when it's around. It's just like, oh, and Magneto lives on an asteroid.
And it's always so random to me when he gets it. It's like, you know what? Today's the day. Come on, rock. The line, you light up everything you touch, but not me, was one of our lines.
I have never seen a parallel drawn between Gambit's and Rogue's powers before, but it's actually so interesting.
It was amazing. That shocked me to do that.
I was like, yeah, why have we not ever talked about that? That's actually really fucking cool.
Like his literal thing is he charges what he touches.
Yeah, it's such a simple like play of like Gambit's whole thing is touching things. That's something I feel like I've never gotten before. Like obviously his whole thing has been like he wants to have sex and Rogue can't have sex, so it's like the same idea. But like even on a power level, Gambit just touches shit. Like he is a very tactile person, and he can't touch Rogue. That's so fascinating. I can't believe it took to this show to get someone to talk about that.
Was there anything in this show that you wanted to happen you didn't get? Or wanted to see more of a certain character, or more to see less of a certain character, or anything, any changes you wish they would remain?
Not really. I would have liked if they had somehow found a way to work Ileana in for the whole Inferno storyline. I appreciate the homage with Morph. And Josh, I assume that you don't know Ileana's Inferno storyline.
That's magic.
Yeah.
I remember when you had talked about the
oh yeah, well that's her origin. But the whole so all of episode 3 is drawing from a story called Inferno, and Inferno is two things. It's Madeline Pryor finding out she's a clone and going nutso and kidnapping a baby. Which also I like that in this version she never kidnaps the baby. She's never.
I like that she still uses the Goblin Queen moniker.
Yeah, it's absurd to me, but also like
it's so stupid.
The Goblin Queen is a funny like thing to randomly call yourself, but you know what? I can assume that you had like a villain idea in your head already. But like her at the end just being like, "Don't call me Jean, call me Madeline Pryor." It's like, why? What is that?
Right.
What name is that? Where did you pull Madeline Pryor from? But I do like that she never is a bad mom. She never tries to kill her kid or kidnap her son or anything. Like I think pinning it on Sinister is smart to make the character be able to be used better. But the second story in Inferno is Ileana basically becoming corrupted into the Dark Child and becoming like a little demon of hell. And so they have a homage in the third episode where Morph turns into normal Ileana and fights her, and then she corrupts her. And then Morph turns into the Dark Child version of Ileana 10 seconds later. And it's a nice homage to the second half of the story. I would have liked if we had gotten some form of it, but also even like in this show, we could get it in season 3 at this point. I really don't know. Maybe.
Do you want to see more of any of the other cameo characters we got? Like we got the Morph turning to Hulk, we got Spider-Man and stuff, and
I mean, I'm not
Daredevil.
I'm not overly into cameos for cameo's sake. Like it's fun.
Sure.
I'm fine.
It was cool seeing Cloak and Dagger. That surprised me.
Yeah, I like seeing Cloak and Dagger.
Mm-hmm.
I got every Glove Shadow I think I could watch in the show. I got fucking Gambit's brother was in an episode again. I could not ask for more. In the funeral. He doesn't do anything.
Oh.
But I cut to him.
I have not watched a show in so long, so I would not have recognized that character model.
But, you know, they had Leech was like a huge player, which was great for me. I was so excited that Leech was in a scene in the trailer. And I was like, look, that's him in the background, Leech. And then he became like a.
Why was there a Glob Herman in this?
Because people love Glob Herman. People are obsessed with Glob Herman.
I know, like Moose does on TikTok.
I think that's Moose. I think Moose has had the biggest impact on the X-Men fandom of anyone ever alive. I think that he single-handedly has shot Glob Herman into the stratosphere, and now he's in everything.
Josh Glob is a big pink boy.
You show me a photo of it.
He's kind of cool. It was just a weird thing to like. Why is wait?
That one shocked me. They had everyone. They had Nature Girl was there. They had Angel Salvador. They had Trish Tilby of all people. Like they really everybody showed up.
There were occasionally a few times where Morph was fighting someone. I'm like, when did they get there? For like a half second.
Oh, that got me all the time. Constantly. When he turned into Quicksilver, I really thought they were just doing Quicksilver. I was like, oh, Quicksilver. And I'm like, that's lit. The Quicksilver's here now. This wasn't Quicksilver.
Because I could see it happening. Why not?
Yeah.
And then, nope. Because especially when there were X-based characters like Ileana coming up. I'm like, okay. And then just never, oh, it's Morph. So I got like a lot of half disappointments in every episode for a second.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But like that was, otherwise, it was a cool use of powers though.
It is. It's just also like, what is his power? So the way they explain it is that it's supposed to be he takes on the physical properties too. So like if he's the Hulk, he has the strength of the Hulk. Because it'd be weird to be.
There'll always be Hulk in fighting. Like I don't.
I mean, but he basically this is the Hulk, Juggernaut, Colossus. Like he's doing it. And it works, but then it's like, but then how does that mean you can stretch like Mr. Fantastic? Like, I guess that is physical, but like that's a power. That's not just a thing that he does. Or the super speed of Quicksilver.
Or flying with Archangel's wings. Like,
well, no, but that is a physical property though, because he has wings. Like, I think you can use a wing if you have a wing.
Yeah, but the metal ones do count too.
They're just gliders. I think it's fine.
They're pretty heavy.
But I don't know. because he can't copy powers, because otherwise they wouldn't have had to have a 3-parter by asking Magneto to reverse the thing he did. So
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I think it's a problem with the character.
Don't think about it, I guess, is the answer. It's like the same issue with, like, occasionally Mystique will show up in things and have the same kind of thing to just take powers over, and it's never really
Yeah, but that's a
often
mistake,
addressed.
because she shouldn't do that. She
Well,
very
evolution should have
explicitly
sometimes.
can't do that.
Yeah. Speaking of Mystique, one scene and not in Mystique form with a flashback.
Yeah, but that's because they were tied to the '90s show. Because the '90s
Right.
series
She's not in
has an episode. I'm telling this to Josh, but they have an episode where Rogue finds out that her like normal mom is just Mystique, because they don't do like was raised by Mystique. She's like got a mom, and then the mom she's like, oh, by the way, I'm Mystique, and she's like, what? And so because of that reveal is in the '90s show, they can't show that Mystique that she knew beforehand, so they have to keep Mystique in the mom form in the flashback. But that is so stupid, because what do you mean your mom introduced you to Magneto? You should have had some thoughts about maybe who your mom was. Why on earth were you so shocked about this concept? But
Like, I also love in this show outwardly calling Kurt and Rogue brother and sister more,
yeah,
because not everything does it, and I appreciate when it happens, because they're siblings in a weird
mean,
way.
what do you call it when your family abandons you and adopts another kid? Like, that's, I think,
And also
siblings-
abandons that kid pretty much too.
I think, well, they don't. I mean, no, not in this show and not in the comics. They never abandoned
She's
Rogue.
not, like, I'm saying Mystique's not usually super present in the Rogue's life as always as a mother.
No, she is.
Well, yeah, I guess with Destiny as well.
She's
Yeah.
she's like very empirically is. Rogue runs away to the X-Men in the comics,
Okay, yeah.
and then in this version, I think she just moves out at like 18. And they don't really go into detail about how the fake mob plan worked, but no,
Is Destiny ever in the original show?
no, I don't think so.
Destiny's Mystique's lesbian lover, Josh, who is blind and can see the future,
Cool.
and all co-parents
No,
sort of
but
with Rogue.
one of the biggest tragedies of Nightcrawler is that like he was abandoned, and
Right.
then Mystique just
Yeeted
got
off
him
a
from a
bridge.
kid and was a good mom, kinda. Like she raised her to be a supervillain, so like up in the arms, but in general was present in her life and loved her, and that's one of those things. I literally like last week, a comic came out and Xavier like re-implanted love for Nightcrawler into Mystique and Destiny. It was really weird.
Currently, they have still currently canon in comics undoed the Azazel stuff.
Yeah, that's why they had
with
to implant the
Kurt.
love again.
Right. Okay.
Because Destiny like meets Kurt and is like, "Yo, I got no feelings for you because I asked Xavier to rip them out of me, and that's why I've never acted like I'm your mom ever in life." And they're like,
It's
"Oh,
complicated.
okay." And so Xavier like puts it back in her, and so now she loves Kurt
So,
again.
Josh, you're aware that originally, at some point, Azazel, the Red Demon, was Kurt's father.
Not
right?
originally.
Well, complicatedly. I'm trying to be brief.
Here's what it is. Chris Claremont, who wrote X-Men for 16 years, is a very woke individual. Sometimes not, but when it comes to the LGBT scene, he was very in it. And he wrote Mystique and Destiny to be lesbian lovers, and they both raised Rogue. And then he revealed that Nightcrawler was Mystique's son with the intention, the idea in his head, that Mystique had grown a penis and impregnated Destiny, and that's how they made Nightcrawler. And then editorial was like, in no way, shape, or form can you ever say that's what happened. And he was like, fine, I'll never say it, but we're not going to talk about it then.
Right.
And so he went on about his life, and then in 2003, he's been pushed off the books. They bring in a new writer, and the writer's like, I guess we never really looked at who Nightcrawler's dad was, and he writes this ridiculous story that introduces a character called Azazel that is literally just Nightcrawler but red, and it's like, that's his dad. Nailed it. And then everyone at the time hated it because he was like also an actual demon and shit. It was really weird. And then last year they were like, okay, we're gonna go back to the original idea here and make Destiny his mom. And then the internet got so mad. They got furious about how much they loved Azazel, even though no one has ever loved Azazel in his entire
No, he has no lines in the original in First Class either, and like no one's a fan of him besides he looks cool. Nightcrawler looks the same. It's blue.
He's just red. That really was enough to win a lot of people over.
And apparently, the only trait he got from Mystique was the blue, which is funny to me. According to when Azazel was his dad, as the
Yeah.
idea,
He got the blue.
he got the blue.
Which also, like, it soft confirms that Azazel is supposed to also be furry, which is weird.
Funny. Yeah, because Nightcrawler's the furry blue elf.
Fuzzy, but yeah.
Like he's covered in fur.
Yeah, he's a short-haired fur.
Yeah.
Which is what the blue
like a cat. Josh, since you have the talk to Lisa so far, because we have you have gone in this with only Fox movies beforehand.
Correct.
What is that like? As having this all it's like the rug pulled out from you. Here's the curtains revealed. This is what X-Men should be like.
It's very refreshing because because obviously like I've had conversations with both of you about just how X-Men is and what it should be like, and then like my own knowledge of like some things, and so seeing like what it should actually be is very interesting, especially just to see like, man, those movies really just said fuck the comics in so many different ways. And of course, like, adaptations will always change things. It's given with the nature, but some of them are like, why these changes? Like, why did they change Cyclops to be nothing in any of the movies he was in? That is strange. Logan
they had two chances. They had Ty Sheridan too.
The romance between Logan
Ty Sheridan,
and Jean...
they made a bad boy, which was also stupid. It was like, really oh, dumb. You guys want to hang out at the mansion? I'm going to the mall. I was like, who the fuck are you?
Let's watch Star Wars.
But then there's like plot elements like Logan and Jean's romance. In the movies, it was very much just like, Jean, you're hot, I want to bang you. And then here it's just like it's briefly talked about, but in those brief conversations, it's already so much deeper than what the movies did. And so stuff like that was really interesting to me. But I really liked how, again, with back to Magneto, like how much more clearer he is with like what he wants and his intentions and stuff. Because in the movies, he's very iffy on things. Like the first movie, it makes sense of him being like, all right, you don't like mutants? Well, what happens when you become a mutant? What's that like for you? And that makes sense for his character. But then in the second movie, he takes a very hard left.
All humans.
Yeah, he takes a very hard left turn. And it's just like, hold on a second here, buddy. But then in the third movie, we kind of go back to like Magneto from 1, and then First Class is very well done. That's the best Magneto's been in those movies. And then he has nothing the rest of the series. And so stuff like that is really refreshing.
I have a question for you, Nikhil. I don't know. Did did Xavier and I can't talk today. Did Eric and Xavier meet at a bar in the comics as well?
No. They meet at a hospital, which I feel like was in this version. When they, like, in the flashbacks in like the finale, when they're both working at the hospital.
I thought it was still a bar.
Well, they're talking at a bar, but they're working at a hospital.
That's right, yeah.
But they meet at a hospital after World War II, where they're taking care of people who are in camps. And that's also where Xavier meets Gabby Holler, who is Legion's mom.
Okay.
And they meet...
Because, yeah, it was cool. It was cool seeing them, their interactions a lot to me in this.
Yeah, no, I loved the whole thing they do with those two in this show.
I like seeing the Magneto hair growth is nice. You see these flashbacks of short hair, long hair.
Long hair Magneto's a choice. I appreciate that they did it.
Mm-hmm. The cape's also always fun. I love a good cape. And the giant M is, I know it's the child Magneto, the look he had in that as well, but it's cool to see that here. I don't think I have no more notes on this overall. Any final thoughts on X-Men 87 season 1 before we have season 2 and 3 coming up in the future?
Stellar, really fantastic. Even for someone like me that knows barely anything about the X-Men, like this is really, really well done.
I love seeing Forge a lot and seeing him authentically be Cheyenne and like showing him be who he is really cool.
Yeah.
Like Evolution didn't touch on it at all, and it was cool that this did.
Evolution made Forge one of my favorite characters because I just loved that there was like the tech X-Men guy.
Yeah, it was cool.
But then he's got so much more depth to it, and also isn't a child. The weirdest thing about Evolution is that who they choose to make children and not children. Like the fact that Storm's an adult and Forge is a child.
Storm's an adult with Scott's like 17. Yeah.
It's absurd. No, I love seeing everyone. I loved this adaptation. I think it's balanced the sort of soap opera-ness of X-Men with the tragedy of it in a way better than almost any other adaptation. I cannot say enough good things about this show.
And you will continue to do so probably for a long time. Yeah. I think it moves on to our next topic, which is super weird stories. And I have one today I don't think either of you have ever heard of. The name of the character is Hollow Man.
Don't know who that is.
Nope.
That's a great start. So this is bizarre This will be pretty brief overall, but he's a fictional American superhero from 1978, from one issue of a comic book about holography, and it was The Amazing Adventures of Hollow Man, published by Peter Pan Records, sold with an accompanying 45 RPM read-along record. It wanted to bundle comics and record sets for young kids to learn how to read more and get more into records as well. That was the idea. And Hollow Man is... Let me show you guys. I have both online stuff and a book about him, or a book that has him in it about him. Here is what he looks like. Big old rainbow.
Oh, he's nice.
So, I don't. We'll get into as well. They got a fun little wizard dude behind him. You know, that's important. So, also it says on here, not to be confused with T.S. Eliot's Hollow Man, Hulu.com, or Hello Kitty. Guess they sound similar. That is my favorite thing on here so far. There's a quote in my book that says, "Those poor tourists look like they've been just seen a ghost. Better concentrate and become invisible." Oh, fancy. So, Dr. James Robinson is a leading laser physicist whose work on laser-induced thermonuclear fusion has brought a visit from U.S. President Jimmy Carter.
Right.
Great start.
Just before the first experiment is initiated, Robinson explains to the president that a special apparatus has been erected that will allow them to safely witness the fusion process. By simultaneous activation of two smaller lasers, which are not part of the demonstration, a three-dimensional image of the reaction will be projected onto two mirror plates. It's just explaining kind of how holograms work a little bit here, and displaying the process while not endangering the spectators. However, the night before, two foreign agents have infiltrated the institute in which the demonstration is conducted and wired the power systems to overload, in the hope that resulting explosion will kill the president. So this comic, a 1-issue series, is about an assassination attempt on Jimmy Carter. As Robinson activates the reaction, the laser overloads and explodes. Robinson is destroyed by the blast, shielding the president, but his body's molecular structure is holographically recorded onto one of the plates. In addition, a rift is torn through time and space into a strange dimension where Robinson encounters a strange being called Laser Man. Laser Man explains to Robinson that the accident has turned the scientist into the world's first living hologram.
Not living laser, because that is a different person.
Correct.
Interesting.
With the power to create and control holograms, including his now converted body, which he can also control, which makes sense. He also represents Robinson with a holodisc, or also presents him with a holodisc, from a future time dimension. What does that mean? Never addressed. To recharge his hollow energy every 12 hours in order to maintain his powers. Again, what happens if he doesn't do it? It's 1 issue. We don't find out. I'm assuming he also would die because his hollow energy is probably part of his body. Robinson reawakens in the devastated laboratory where he finds his assistant Dr. Hugo Petrovich, dying before him. Before expiring, Petrovich reveals his assistance in the sabotage because he was coerced by countrymen from his homeland of Syria who hold his family hostage. He also reveals the reason for his assassination attempt on the president. Syria intends to invade the United States by launching a fake attack with holographic missiles, upon which an immediate land-bound strike will follow immediately to exploit the confusion caused by the holograms. So their plan was, let's send holograms first, to confuse everyone, then send real missiles. They'll be so distracted. The president's death was intended to add to the resulting chaos, just for shits and giggles, I guess. By using his newfound powers to warp his body to Washington. So I guess he can kind of teleport, resulting in light speed, because he's a hologram. Robinson/Hollow Man appears before the president and uses his powers to convince him of the seriousness of the situation. Right after delivering his warning, Hollow Man prepares to use a holodisc to recharge, but then a swarm of holographic missiles darken the sky of Washington. The Syrian invasion has already commenced. That's where the synopsis ends, and there's not an issue number 2.
Well, sounds like those missiles landed. Syrians win. Rip Carter.
So, Which I think is incredible. So yeah, the plot ends with a cliffhanger. It is followed by an uncredited 2-page text feature, which just discusses a little bit about Laser Man and the Hollow Squad, Laser Woman, Wavelength, and Utopia. We don't ever see them again. We don't get more of this. A second character who appears on the cover and on the Hollow Squad page does not appear in the story itself. So the wizard I showed you, not in the issue.
Jesus.
This was again from 1978.
It sounds like this would be something from the 40s.
Hold on. This is titled on the bottom, Birth of a Hero. And also Death of a Hero?
Yes. Well, implied death of a hero.
Well, they have the holograms coming in first. So maybe they won't be confused this time. They'll know what's coming.
It is funny that it specifies holographic missiles blot out the sky. So, like,
Yes,
if they're
'cause they're
following
light.
their usual system, then there will be new real missiles later. But as of now, there's not actually a threat.
No, missiles are following the first attack. The holographic missiles, I guess you're right. Right now, it's just holographic missiles first.
Yeah.
So it might not get a second wave. We don't know.
I mean, maybe they used all their real missiles. Maybe it was like a sandwiching thing. Holographic missiles, real missiles, more holographic missiles. Maybe they don't have any after that.
But that is the story of Hollow Man. What do y'all think about that? Should we get a DC or MCU movie with this character popping up?
Hell yes. Give Hollow Man his due justice. Finish the story, damn it. Does Carter live?
I would love if they would.
Jimmy Carter live.
I'd love if they picked up an issue 2 of this now. That was just like 40 years or whatever in the future, and Carter did not live. The Sumerians invaded. Now, Hollow Man must finally strike back.
He waited this long?
Well, maybe he died. There's a new Hollow Man. I don't know.
In the new X-Men Days of Future Past universe, whatever, in the future, we have a new Hell future for X-Men. We have Hollow Man there, fighting alongside them. Hey guys, we have more missiles coming.
The trick is to always expect the missiles after the big fake missiles. That's important wisdom to pass down.
So, Nikhil, where can people find you online?
Nikhil Clayton on TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, everywhere. It's me.
And if you have anything to promote, you also can do that as well.
I don't.
Okay. I don't know if you want to promote what you're doing for your chair. Your
Oh yeah, I have
GoFundMe
2
thing.
links in my bio on TikTok if you want to donate to them. That'd be very nice.
They're very useful. You will help support Palestinians who need to escape. So if you can do so, that'd be great. If not, money is tight. We understand. Josh, where can people find you online?
My names are less consistent. YouTube, Josh Rudolph. Instagram, J_Rudy16. Twitter, J_Rudy28. And Letterboxd at Nerd4Film28.
Oh, I'm also on Letterboxd. Nikhil
Is it just
Clayton.
Nikhil Clayton?
Yeah. It used to be
Yeah.
different, but I changed it so that everything lined up.
Like, I follow you and Josh and a bunch of our friends. I don't know any of their usernames. Because everyone's just so different. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at ThatNerdInTheater or on Twitter at TheTheaterNerd. And you can email the show at podgeekspeak@gmail.com or tweet at us with hashtag GeekSpeakPod or at GeekSpeakPod on Twitter. You also can now join our Discord down below in the description and come have real-time discussions with us about the episodes or help influence what we talk about next. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great rest of your day.